Hey, welcome to Pipettes. I'm Josh.
And I'm Peter.
And oftentimes we are obsessed with foam.
Yep.
Everything we build is with foam. When we talk about scratch building, it immediately goes to foam. But there's a lot of other really great materials out there that have been around way longer than us.
Yep, a lot longer.
And that's balsa wood. And as people get more comfortable with building planes and going through, they want more challenges. And one thing we wanted to show you today was getting started with balsa. And while we were at Year-Old Stomping Grounds, Radical RC.
Yes. I remember the first time he gave me a balsa kit, he gave me this box of parts, and I was like, what do I do with this?
What's your old boss's name?
Dave Thacker.
These are both designs that we picked up by Dave, and they tab together. The way balsa planes have been built has definitely changed. Now with laser cutters and CAD, this is a laser cut kit, and it's probably one of the best ways to get started.
Yep.
And we want to show you a couple things before setting up, because normally you have a hot glue gun, you have...
yeah, all the stuff we have, like, you know all that stuff.
This is a little bit different. You're going to need instant glue.
CA, which is otherwise cyanacrylate, I believe.
Yeah, cyanoacrylic or
yeah,
something.
some
We
weird
can't
stuff.
pronounce it at all. It's a weird long name. But long story short, it glues your fingers together.
Really, really fast. And it gets hot sometimes, too. So, yeah. Don't spit on your clothes, because if you get on your clothes, it's permanent, too.
Yep, make sure you also have a well-ventilated area, and don't hover over the project that you're building. And speaking of building, you're going to need to set up a certain area for that. One thing that we've been using ever since I was a little kid is drop ceiling.
Yeah, this is a new tip for me. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah,
You just use it to stick pins in and stuff. That's pretty convenient.
This is just a typical drop ceiling. You have two sides. It's disposable. It's kind of like a self-healing mat. You can cut into it. But the nice thing is, if you have to pin something down, you can simply use these pins, and you can just stick them in all that you want.
Yep.
But it's also a nice protective layer. Now with these kits, you can darn near build them in your lap. So this is kind of looking ahead to truss building and things like that, where you're laying down plans and building over them. But if you are going to be building over something and you're going to be building on a surface, you don't want to be gluing when you set your project down or when
You don't want
you're
to glue it
putting
to the
together.
table.
You don't want to glue it to the table.
Otherwise, you need the paint scraper to get it off.
Exactly. And one element that we use is simple wax paper. And that wax paper is really, really crucial. You always want to make sure that the waxy part, by scratching it with your nail, is facing up. And that's actually going to keep your item from gluing to your surface, gluing to your tabletop, and adhering to the table, and you having to break it.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that, too. I was like, wax paper, I thought I was wax on both sides. That's news to me.
It works really
scratch
good. And later on when we show you truss building, the nice thing about wax paper is it's transparent. So you can lay down your plans, and then you can lay the wax paper, and you literally build right over top of your plans.
Yeah.
But because this jigs together, there's no full-size plans on this. So this will be covered a little bit later. So once we have this all done, Peter, you have some really cool techniques when you're building things like punching pieces out. How do you organize them?
Actually, he's gave a little list right here of like N1, N3 for like nose ribs and stuff. So what I did is I took the parts out and I stacked them in a little area, so I knew which ones to grab and where to put them. So it makes building a little easier. Basically, just organize your parts, kind of like we do with people kits. You know, we cut all our parts out, lay them out, and then start the build.
And the nice thing about this is once it starts going together, you're actually reading instructions and you're going step by step along with each item. This actually jigs together and holds under pressure. There isn't a single piece glued together on either one of these yet.
There's no glue.
It holds together remarkably well. Once you get everything straight and true, then it's time to glue it together. One very important thing before you apply your glue, whether you're using a tail surface, a fuselage, whatever it is, make sure you check over the whole item and all your components are in. Always fit before you glue. If you go ahead and glue this all together and then suddenly you realize you're missing one rib, you're going to have to get creative and cut that rib apart and then piece it around the piece in order to get it together. There is something a little bit different with CA or instant glue and wood. Where hot glue, you can have kind of a gap. You can kind of just smear it together, push together, and let the glue be the joint. This, you need a very tight joint. You don't want it to be loose.
Or you need the thick CA, because CA comes in 3 grades. Thick, medium, and thin.
Yes.
Thick is for like gap filling stuff. It's a lot slower cure. And there's medium, which most of you guys use, and I think medium is what you can find almost like at Lowe's or something like that. And then there's also thin, which basically runs like kerosene. And if you've ever had this stuff, it's like consistency of like kerosene basically. So it runs all over the place. So if you guys ever spill this stuff, you're in for a mess.
Another benefit to having some wax paper down. Now you use these pipettes, and I never knew this.
Yep. You guys actually want to learn from him when I was working at the hobby shop for getting into really, really tight pockets. Like if you ever notice, you can't get that into like some very fine areas, but where some of these, you can get these in multiple grades. This is not the best grade for this. This is a thicker one. But you can get some very thin ones where you can get into like the most tiniest of crevices and just lay down the glue. Yep,
and at the hobby stores where you can order this or buy this, you can also get little tops to clip on too, and they're disposable. They only last about a day, but you can clip on that top and then you can go in there. So once you have something like this jigged up, you can follow along on all the seams and put a nice thin bead of glue down.
You just go just like clockwork. It's real fast.
And let it dry.
it just zaps in real fast.
So, yep, absolutely. Now, once this is glued together, you always have to sand balsa wood airplanes, before you cover. If it has a rough edge and you try to cover over it, that rough edge can sometimes push through the covering. Also, it'll look bad. One thing that's very common that people, when they want to sand, is they just want to start going over it like this. The problem is because you have the grain of the wood, these ribs can be very, very fragile. You always want to be very careful. So whenever you do go to sand, you always want to pay attention to the grain of the wood and how things are going. And you want to roll with the actual wood. Roll in the strongest form. So roll with the grain and don't go across the grain because you're going to end up breaking it. Friends, I want to thank you for watching. Working with balsa wood is an incredibly rewarding experience.
And also full of dust for me. My lungs get full of this stuff, so I try to stay at the minimum to the balsa.
Ventilation is important, and definitely make sure, if you're allergic to dust like my friend Peter is here, make sure you wear a dust mask. Look for the future too. We have some episodes that kind of talk about covering. We're going to be covering and also classic truss style building and some of the older techniques that'll hopefully unlock a whole bunch of options for you if you ever want to move from foam onto balsa.
Yeah, you're talking like pure scratch building.
Oh yeah, pure scratch build. Well, the neat thing is you can take simple sheets of balsa wood, you can strip them down into sticks, and you can build the most amazing airframes very economically. So we're gonna get these ready to go, and we're gonna get them in the air. Maybe we'll do a review on them in the future. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.